scooters here. The on switch. Oh my God, whoa. Whoa, whoa, hey! Oh, woo, there we go. This thing is so fast. This thing is like, so this video is not about this scooter, it's about gimbals and getting really good gimbal shots for your movies, videos, like action style gimbal shots. Today, we're breaking down action camera, car commercially type setups for your gimbal. How to get really cinematic gimbal style shots that sort of resemble that of like a car commercial or something that's a little bit more professional. Now, like I said before, and like what you saw in the opening sequence, we shot this really cool like montage type thing, and I want to talk about how we actually captured those shots. There are a few things that I utilized to make that film look the way it did, and so I'm gonna be breaking it down. Isn't that like so crazy smooth? Like, isn't that like insane how good this is? Okay, so the first thing that you guys should consider doing with your gimbal footage to make it just like look so much more crispy, smooth, and buttery is actually to film out of a moving vehicle. Now I know you might be like, oh my God, but Zach, isn't that super risky? It is, it's semi-dangerous. If you don't want to wreck your gear, or your gear is extremely valuable to you, which it is to me, but for some reason I risk it and do crazy stuff with it. But if by chance this makes your stomach turn, then just don't do it. But know that the coverage that you're gonna get is super sick. Now the shots that we were capturing sort of emulated what you would get using a piece of gear called the Russian arm, which basically is this arm that comes out of the back of a vehicle, and you're able to catch like those car commercial type shots. If you've ever watched a car commercial or watched something on a higher end level, like a Hollywood car chase, this is what they would utilize primarily. Now, you and I probably don't have money to use a Russian arm, nor do we have the possible space and all that stuff to access one of those. So on a lower end, you can just take your camera and hang it out of the window of a moving car, or out of our situation, which was like a side-by-side, and we were able to capture some super nice movement. The next thing that you guys need to think about is angle, proportion of where the camera is within the space of your shot. Now, personally, what I like to do is I actually like to get my camera nice and low to the ground, something similar to what a Russian arm would achieve. Now, the reason why you get it nice and low is you're able to get a lot of motion within your shot. The lower it is means the closer it is to something within the frame, i.e. the ground, and when the ground is kind of passing by the bottom of the frame, you're starting to get that feeling of motion, which gives you that sense of speed and agility. It also just makes the frame a lot more interesting. So with what we did was I hung out to the side of the vehicle, but I also put the gimbal and the camera nice and low to be able to catch a lot of motion and a lot of movement within the frame, therefore just creating a more dynamic shot. The next thing I want to address and express is focal lengths, lenses. Now, I do have a full tutorial on this, also published by Premium Beat, that talks about the best lenses for gimbal movement, so I won't go too far into this, but what we used was a 50mm prime lens. Now, the reason why I stuck to this focal length as opposed to any others is because it got me close enough to the subject matter so that I could get a nice moving background, but also just wide enough that we were able to stay a safe distance away from our vehicle and keep it fully within frame. 50mm is an amazing focal length for this because anything fast, you get that nice blurring background. The wider you shoot, the less the background moves. The tighter you shoot, the more sort of movement you get within the frame because it condenses the shot. Again, I do a much more comprehensive video on this if you guys are interested in looking at that. There'll be a link to it in the description below. But just understand that the tighter your focal length, the more movement you get, the cooler the shot can sometimes look. It's just the more limited you are on shots because that means you have to be further away from your subject matter. So 50mm was like the prime, see what I did there? Prime focal length for all of this stuff. What we do for movies. And then finally, how I got like this super cinematic footage was I shot it at a higher frame rate. Now, a lot of the time I'm not super crazy about shooting at like slow-mo or shooting everything in slow-mo, but this really worked out to our advantage because we were able to get buttery slow-mo. The reason why slow-mo worked really well was because I was able to convert it into 24 when I needed to, and since it didn't have motion blur, that was okay because it made things look faster and more aggressive and had a little bit more agility to it. So the final thing to talk about is your gimbal and the gimbal choices and the cameras that I use for this. Now for this video, primarily I used 3 different cameras. The first one was the DJI Osmo Action, which, like I said before, it is an insane camera. It's so good. Let me know if you guys are interested in me talking about that camera, because I've just fallen in love with it. Its stabilization process, I don't know if it's digital or optical, but whatever they do in it, it's really, really good. Second camera that has a gimbal on it is the Dji Matic Pro 2, which has an incredible gimbal on the front of it, and I was trying to get some FPV style drone flying shots. I crashed it a few times. It was just a wide range of craziness, but it got some really cool coverage. And with that, I sort of used the same principles. I kept it low, I moved it fast, I moved it around while still keeping a center focus tracking. Finally, the piece of gear that I want to talk about is the gimbal that I use for this project, which is the MOZA Air 2. Now, I've been playing around with this for the last few months now. I absolutely love this gimbal. It is so amazing and robust, and literally hung out of the side of a vehicle while I was shooting with it the entire time. I had it dangling down low to the ground, and I just loved it because it started up quickly, captured the shots that I wanted, and the features and functions were visible on the screen that was attached to the handle, which I've never experienced with a gimbal before. The fact that we were able to do this really run and gun stuff, and if there's any reprogramming that I had to do, or perhaps it just stopped working for some reason, I could literally troubleshoot it right there because I could see it all presented on the screen. But that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the gimbal that I was using in this video, you can check it out in the description below.